Good morning. All right. I haven't done these in a while. Last night I was talking with some people, some guys, and someone made a comment. Uh, and the comment, it was in the context of uh, letting go of negative behaviors, including, like at the more extreme end, addictive behaviors. But the comment was, willpower doesn't work. That was the comment. And when he said that, um, it, so the natural response that I tended to have is that true? Like, does willpower work or does it not work? And immediately I thought of two things. One is when I was a grad student, I had a professor who said, if you want to appear smart and have an answer to every question, there is an answer that can be given to any question that's asked. And that answer is depends. So if someone asks you a question, you say depends, and that'll be a correct answer, a true answer. Now, if that person who's asking gets a little irritated and said, depends on what, then you say, depends on the context. And at that point, you could just walk away. And having vanquished or shown superiority to the questioner. Anyway, so kind of joking, but anyway, that's one thing I thought of. And the other thing I thought of was a saying from the Indian, as in Hindu, like that Indian tradition that someone shared with me many years ago. And that saying is, the opposite of a great truth is another great truth. And so when this friend said, willpower doesn't work, I didn't hear that as quite a great truth, but I thought there's some weight to that statement. And weight as in it has some weight in its truthfulness. So I immediately thought, oh, the opposite statement is also probably true. And in fact, I could think of many instances where it was. And I wasn't opposed to his statement either. I could think of many instances in my own experience where willpower wasn't useful or it didn't work. And, and so combining the two together, the question is, does willpower work? The answer is depends. Depends on what? Depends on the context. But instead of me walking away, the next question might be, well, what's the context? And that's what I wanted to talk about. So another quote or a saying that I heard, it's just a restatement of something that's much better known. In the Dharma tradition, there's just like the Christians have a Bible, one could say that in Buddhism there's a book called the Dhammapada, a compilation of teachings of the historical Buddha. And I believe the opening lines of the Dhammapada point to what I'm about to share in a rephrased version. And so what I heard someone once say is that the spiritual life could be summarized in two simple impulses or two simple actions or choices. And the two simple impulses are to cultivate virtues and to relinquish non-virtues. And that could be restated as to strengthen and build up and cultivate again good positive qualities within ourselves, whether those qualities are kindness, patience, diligence, and so on. And the second part is to relinquish, as in let go, quit negative behaviors, the non-virtues, whether that's gluttony, laziness, being mean-spirited, and so on. And so that's what I thought about. So my own thoughts on this question of in what context does willpower work and in what contexts does willpower not work, my thought is that willpower works and is necessary, it's mandatory in the first aspect of the spiritual life in terms of cultivating and building positive qualities. And where I tend to think willpower doesn't work is in the second part of letting go and relinquishing negative qualities or unhelpful, unproductive, non-beneficial qualities. And that's what I want to talk about or continue talking about. So I'm hoping that it's obvious to most of you that if I want to cultivate positive qualities, whether let's suppose the quality of patience, well, that requires willpower. It requires an exertion of effort, a conscious assertion of willpower. For example, if I'm in a situation where I'm very frustrated and might just want to blow up, to restrain myself, that requires willpower. But also, let's suppose it's something positive like having a spiritual practice. And as someone who's been a daily meditator for quite a long time, I would say that one of the foundational pieces of my practice is the exertion of willpower to every day make myself show up on the cushion and to sit and take that position and hold that position for a certain amount of time, whether that's 5 minutes or 2 hours, or some years 3-4 hours every day. And so, but anyway, it's not so much the time, but it's the fact that one can't just sort of flow into a state of, yeah, I'm going to sit on a chair and have a straight back and pretty much not move and focus on my breath or focus on certain ideas for a certain amount of time. Like, that just doesn't happen by accident. It happens through an exertion of willpower. And if things like the development of perseverance and diligence, again, require willpower. And I'm hoping that that's patently obvious. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. The side that I think is more interesting is the second part, is where does willpower not work? Or where does it not have the kinds of results that it can produce when it comes to making positive progress? Like, even something that may not be positive, by the way, in terms of where willpower can work, is like something like working out or getting better at a sport or a musical instrument. It takes willpower to show up and practice. Anything that requires showing up and practicing requires willpower. Yeah. Now, but switching over to the letting go side, I think this is the more interesting side. And I want to state something that you're welcome to question, but I just take as a given. And the given is that there's something self-correcting about life. Everything that I can look at carefully has a self-correcting mechanism to it. So an example of that would be, for example, the practice of meditation. If I show up to the practice of meditation, even if I'm doing it wrong, as long as I'm awake and trying to be cognizant of what's happening, one day, if whatever I'm doing wrong will likely show itself to me, and I'll wake up to the fact that this is wrong because it's not working. And there will be a self-correction happening without me consciously correcting it. Another example I want to give is many years ago I came across a method of voice training. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was for singing or speaking, but the primary suggestion was to record oneself and simply to listen. And there were explicit instructions on not to try to fix anything. So, for example, if one has a habit of, let's say, saying a lot, if one's recording oneself talking and hears oneself say the tip was, don't try to make yourself say any less, but just notice that that's what you're saying, and in time it'll just fade. And that was my experience. So these are just examples of self-correction that one doesn't necessarily need to make a conscious effort at correcting, but it helps to have awareness of what's happening. So that's a kind of an assumption that I want to put into place. And now coming back to letting go, I actually have a prop for this talk. So I can talk of many kinds of letting go, whether it's a letting go of an addiction, let's say an addiction to drugs or an addiction to cigarettes, or an addiction to, or maybe not addiction, or an obsession to a relationship or a person, or a kind of an attachment to eating certain foods or eating a certain way or having to snack or having to have coffee in the morning, any kind of behavior where there's a clinging that's involved. And what is the process of letting go of that thing? By the way, I like these videos to be approximately around 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop this at this point.